I found a stack of 45s in a garage when I was a kid, and almost every one of them was stamped 1960. I did not know what I was holding. I thought it was old music. It was actually the year rock and roll nearly lost the thread. When you see me shed a tear, and then found it again in the strangest possible way. These are the 10 biggest songs of 1960. And number 1 is Not Who You Think It Is. Number 10, Walk, Don't Run.
But I think all in all, for you and the whole family, there'll be fun in store if you'll come on in and join us.
The Ventures. The first time I heard this, I could not tell you what year it came from. It just sounded like the future, and it still does. No singer, no words, nothing to hide behind. Just a guitar figure walking down a staircase and daring you to keep up. Here is the part I love. It did not start as a rock song at all. It was written and recorded by a jazz guitarist named Johnny Smith back in 1954. Chet Atkins picked it up and fingerpicked his own version for an album called Hi-Fi and Focus, and a guy in Tacoma, Washington named Bob Bogle owned that record. He and Don Wilson had a band. They pulled the tune apart and rebuilt it with a vibrato bar and a heartbeat instead of finesse. And here is the part I did not know until I started digging. Nobody wanted it. They cut it at a small Seattle studio and put it out on a label called Blue Horizon, which was run by Don Wilson's mother. 300 copies. That is the whole first pressing. 300. Then a DJ named Pat O'Day at KJR in Seattle started playing it. He used it to lead into the newscast. Every single time. And the phone started going, okay, I love this next part. The producer at Dolton Records, who had already passed on this band, he called the station wanting to know who they were. He picked up the record, put it out nationally, and it went to number 2 in the country. And Johnny Smith, the jazz guy who wrote it in 1954, he later said the Ventures record set him up for life. He never had to chase it, it just came to him. Some records don't just sound good, they give permission. And this one told about 10,000 kids that a band could be 4 guys, no singer, and still take over the radio. Number 9, Only the Lonely, Roy Orbison.
That's what it's called, Only the Lonely. Again, ladies and gentlemen, Roy Orbison.
I need to tell you something about this record. Before this song, Roy Orbison was a man sitting in his car writing songs because his apartment was too small and too full. His wife, a new baby, no room to think. So he sat in the car. And one day, a guy named Joe Melson tapped on the window and asked if he wanted to write together. That is where this came from, a car window. And when they finished it, Roy did not want to sing it. He wanted to sell it. He took it to Elvis Presley. Elvis passed. He took it to the Everly Brothers, who had already cut one of his songs and had every reason to say yes. They said no. But, and this is the part that gets me, they did not just turn it down. They told him he should record it himself. And I know how that sounds. Somebody rejects your song and then tells you what to do with it. But they were right. March of 1960, RCA Studio B in Nashville. Fred Foster producing for Monument. The Nashville A-Team in the room. Bob Moore on bass, Floyd Kramer on piano, Hank Garland and Harold Bradley on guitar. The Anita Kerr singers doing that floating thing behind him. And Roy stops being a rockabilly guy and becomes the thing he actually was, which was an opera singer who happened to land in rock and roll. Number 2 in America. Number 1 in Britain, his first ever. Before this, his biggest record had stalled at 72. And Elvis, who passed on it. When it came out, he bought a box of copies and handed them to his friends. Years later, on a Vegas stage, he called Orbison the greatest singer in the world. And I know you have had a version of this experience. The thing you almost gave away. The thing somebody else had to see in you first. Let's look at the numbers. Only 9% of you are actually subscribed. Honestly, that's tough to see. Our team spends days hunting down archives and verifying every single fact just to tell these stories right. If you've made it this far into the video, you're clearly part of the community, so please hit subscribe. It costs nothing and helps us immensely. Now, for those already subscribed, very few of you have made the jump to our membership, and that's a hard pill to swallow because you're the ones who know our value best. If this channel has moved you or inspired you, consider joining. It's the price of one coffee, but it's the literal fuel for this channel. Let's keep this alive together. Back to the story. Number 8, Running Bear, Johnny Preston. This one was number 1 in America for 3 weeks in January of 1960, and by Billboard's year-end count, it was the 4th biggest record of the whole year. And almost nobody knows the man who made it happen was already dead when it charted. The song was written by J.P. Richardson. You know him better as the Big Bopper. He wrote Chantilly Lace. He wrote White Lightning for George Jones. And he had this doomed lover story he decided was too heavy for him to sing himself. So he took it to a 19-year-old kid he had seen playing a club in Texas, Johnny Preston. Preston was not sure about it.
He couldn't swim the raging river, 'cause
Other people talked him into it. They cut it at Gold Star in Houston. And here is the part I still find hard to believe. Those chanting voices behind Preston, that is the Big Bopper himself, the producer Bill Hall, and a young George Jones, before he was George Jones. All 3 of them standing around a microphone making a rhythm bed out of nothing. Then February 3rd, 1959, that plane in Iowa. Buddy Holly, Richie Valens, and J.P. Richardson. The record sat. The release got tangled up and delayed for months. And when it finally came out and climbed all the way to number 1, the man who wrote it, cast it, and sang on it had been gone for almost a year. He never heard it on the radio as a hit.
little white dove did the same, and they swam.
And I have to be straight with you because you would call me on it anyway. Those chants have not aged well. We can hold both things at once. That it is a strange, haunted little record with a dead man's voice buried in the mix. And that it does something in 1960 we would not do now. Number 7, Stay, Maurice Williams and the Zodiacs. 1.5 minutes. That is the whole song. Put the needle down and it is basically over before your coffee cools. And it is still, to this day, the shortest record ever to hit number 1 in America. Maurice Williams wrote it as a teenager in South Carolina, after a girl he was seeing had to be home by curfew and cut the night short. That is the whole idea. Please do not go yet. He was 15 or so. He held onto it for years. By 1960, he had a group called the Zodiacs, named after a car they saw when they broke down on the way to a gig, which I find perfect. They cut it, Phil Gernhardt produced it, and a Zodiac named Henry Gaston went up into that falsetto in the first 30 seconds. That ridiculous, gorgeous, air raid siren falsetto that basically invented a whole generation of singers who yelp. You just smiled. I know you did, because I did the same thing the first time I really listened. It entered the Hot 100 in October, and on November 21st, 1960, it was the biggest record in America. 1 week. Then Elvis knocked it off with Are You Lonesome Tonight? Here is the part I did not expect. That was their only top 40 pop hit, ever. One and done. Except Williams had already written Little Darlin' years earlier with a different group, and the Diamonds took that one and made a fortune with it. So he was the guy who wrote 2 immortal records and cashed in on neither, the way he should have. By 1990, Stay had sold more than 8 million copies. Dirty Dancing put it in front of an entirely new generation in 1987. Maurice Williams died in 2024, 86 years old. Still the man who holds the record. 1.5 minutes, exactly as long as it needed to be. Number 6, Chain Gang, Sam Cooke. There is a rhythm in this record that sounds like work. Not a metaphor for work. Actual work. Tools coming down, breath going out. and Sam Cooke floats on top of it like the most beautiful voice anybody has ever pointed at a hard subject. Here is where it came from. Cooke was out on tour, and somewhere along a highway he passed a chain gang. Prisoners in a line, working in the heat. He and his brother Charles stopped. They talked to the men. They gave them cartons of cigarettes and got back on the bus. And then he wrote this. He cut it in New York in January of 1960, and he was not satisfied. That is the detail I keep thinking about. He had the song, he had the players, and he came back months later to redo vocals because he could hear something in his head he had not gotten yet. Released in July of 1960. Number 2 on the pop chart. Number 2 R&B. Number 9 in Britain. His first top 10 over there. It was his first real hit after leaving Keane for RCA, and it was the biggest thing he had done since You Send Me 3 years earlier. And here is the part that still gets me. It is a song about men in chains, and it is completely alive. Cooke does not sing it with pity, and he does not sing it with rage. He sings it like these are people, with homes, with somebody waiting. A kid in England named Rod Stewart heard it on a transistor radio, and later said it rearranged his entire idea of what music could be. Years after that, the Pretenders would build a song around the echo of it. You can't always explain why a record matters this much, but you know when it does. Number 5, I'm Sorry, Brenda Lee.
You tell me mistakes.
She was 15. I want to sit with that for a second because it changes everything about how this record lands. 15 years old, standing in Bradley Studios in Nashville in March of 1960, singing about the kind of regret most people do not learn until much later. Owen Bradley produced it. The strings come in, the voice comes in, and it does not sound like a teenager doing an impression of an adult. It sounds like somebody who has already been through it. Here is the part I did not know until I started digging. Decca did not want to put it out. They sat on it for months.
And I was too blind.
Their concern was that a 15-year-old girl had no business singing a song about heartbreak that it would not be appropriate. By some accounts, she had not even been on a date yet.
To see.
So when they finally released it, they buried it. It went out as the flip side of an up-tempo number called That's All You Gotta Do, written by Jerry Reed, because a bouncy little rockabilly thing felt safer for it. They played the ballad side, and America stopped what it was doing. 3 weeks at number 1 in July of 1960. Number 4 on the R&B chart, which tells you something about how wide that voice traveled. And the B-side they were actually pushing? It went to number 6 in the same week. They called her Little Miss Dynamite because she was tiny and the sound was enormous. And I know you have had a version of this. The thing somebody decided you were too young for, or too small for, or not ready for. She was ready.
Please accept my...
Number 4, Save the Last Dance for Me, The Drifters. This is the one I mentioned, and I told you, it changes the song. You know this record. We all know this record. It has been at every wedding you have ever been to. It sounds like the last 20 minutes of a good night.
But don't forget to take it home.
Latin lilt. That swelling Stan Applebaum arrangement. Ben E. King's voice out front, sounding like a man who is completely at peace. But sit with me for a minute. The man who wrote the words was named Doc Pomus.
Never, never let you go. No.
Born Jerome Felder in Brooklyn. He had polio as a child. He spent his life on crutches and later in a wheelchair. He could not walk unassisted, and he could not dance. At all. Ever.
Oh, I know that the music is fine, like sparkling wine.
In 1957, he married a Broadway actress and dancer named Willie Burke. And at his own wedding reception, he sat at the table and told his bride to go dance with their friends, with the guests, to have the night she deserved, and he watched. Then he took a wedding invitation, turned it over, and wrote a line on the back of it in pencil. That invitation is in the Library of Congress now. You can go look at it. Mort Schumann wrote the melody, and in May of 1960, Leiber and Stoller took it into the studio with the Drifters. It was
Cause don't forget
Ben E. King's last session with the group. He was already on his way out the door. Here is the last thing. Atlantic put it out as a B-side. It was going to be the flip, and Dick Clark turned the record over, listened to the other side, and said no, that one. 3 weeks at number 1, a week on top of the R&B chart. Number 2 in Britain. Recorded since by hundreds of artists in dozens of languages. So now, go put it on. And listen to it as what it actually is. Which is not a party song. It is a man who cannot stand up telling the woman he loves to go have her night. And asking for one small thing back. Number 3, Kathy's Clown, the Everly Brothers. There is a drum sound on this record that should not exist in 1960. It lands, and then it lands again, like there are two drummers in the room slightly disagreeing. There was one, Buddy Harman. They ran the drums through a tape loop to double him. That is the sound. That is why this record does not age. And here is where the idea came from, which I love. Don Everly built the arrangement off a piece of orchestral music, Ferdy Groffet's Grand Canyon Suite, by way of an André Kostelanetz recording. He heard that rhythm, the pack animals coming down the trail, and turned it into a rock and roll record about public humiliation. Because that is what the song is. It is a guy everybody is laughing at, keeping his face straight in public. The context matters here. The Everlys had spent 3 years at Cadence Records making hit after hit. And Cadence could not afford to keep them. Warner Brothers, a struggling little label at the time, came in with what has been reported as $1 million deal, one of the biggest anybody had signed. So Warner is betting the company, and the brothers walk into a Nashville studio in March of 1960 with everything riding on one song.
You know that it's sincere. Don't you think it's kind of sad?
Wesley Rose producing, Hank Garland on guitar, Floyd Kramer on piano, Floyd Chance on bass, Don and Phil standing at one microphone, singing it live, in a single take, no overdubs. And here is the part that still gets me. 2 people, 1 mic, 1 pass. That is the whole miracle of it. 5 weeks at number 1 in America, 7 weeks at number 1 in Britain. It was the first single ever to top both charts at the same time.
I hear this sound.
8 million copies worldwide. The Billboard called it the 3rd biggest record of the year, and it was the last American number 1 the Everly Brothers ever had. And in Liverpool, 2 teenagers who had briefly considered calling themselves the Foreverly Brothers were listening very, very closely. 3 years later, they built the harmony on Please Please Me out of what they learned right here. Number 2, It's Now or Never, Elvis Presley. Here is the situation. March of 1960. Elvis gets out of the army, 2 years gone, and the entire industry is quietly asking the question nobody wants to say out loud, which is whether he is finished, whether the moment moved on without him.
Shawnee Wilson to do the Italian version of O Sole Mio, and then we'll do.
He answers with Stuck on You, which goes to number 1 in April and holds it for 4 weeks. Fine, he is back. Everybody exhales. And then he does this. While he was stationed in Germany, he heard a 1949 record by Tony Martin called There's No Tomorrow, which was built on the old Neapolitan song O Sole Mio, and he could not shake it. He told his publisher, Freddie Bienstock, that he wanted that melody. Bienstock went back to New York, found 2 writers, Aaron Schroeder and Wally Gold, and they wrote English lyrics to it reportedly in about half an hour. April 3rd, 1960. RCA Studio B in Nashville. Bill Porter engineering, the Jordanaires behind him.
I'm so tender, my heart was kept.
And here is my favorite detail in this entire list. That enormous ending, the one that climbs and holds and does not blink. Elvis had trouble getting it, and the engineer offered him the easy way out. Said they could splice it, do the ending separately, cut it in, nobody would ever know. He did not want it spliced. He wanted the whole thing in one pass.
Smart aleck.
Now think about what this record actually is. It is the guy who scared America in 1956, coming back and singing something closer to opera. No apology, no hedging. 5 weeks at number 1 in the States. And in Britain, the release got held up because O Sole Mio was public domain in America, but still under copyright in Europe. So the lawyers had to work it out, which meant advance orders piled up for months. When it finally came out, it entered the UK chart at number 1, almost unheard of then, and sat there for 8 weeks. Over 20 million copies worldwide.
Is now never. Listen to his voice, ladies and gentlemen.
The biggest selling single of his entire life. And a kid named Barry White heard it in 1960 while he was locked up, and later said that record turned him around.
Kiss me, my darling. Will I
Number 1, The Twist, Chubby Checker.
like this? Twist.
You know this one. We all know this one. It is at every reception. It is in every commercial. It is the song people do the little hip motion to when they are being funny. But sit with me for a minute, because where this came from makes it sound completely different on the other side. Start here. Chubby Checker did not write it. His name is not even Chubby Checker.
Take me by my little hand and go.
He was born Ernest Evans in South Carolina, raised in South Philadelphia, and he got the name at a recording session after he did a Fats Domino impression. Dick Clark's wife made the joke about Fats and a checker, and it stuck to him for the rest of his life.
And do a twist.
The song belonged to Hank Ballard. Hank Ballard and the Midnighters cut it in 1958, and it went out as a B-side, on the back of a ballad called Teardrops on Your Letter, a B-side. Ballard's version eventually climbed to number 28. And Ballard was blunt about it for the rest of his life. He said people called Chubby the father of the twist, but he is the stepfather. It was Hank's baby. Checker cut his version for Parkway in Philadelphia, almost note for note, and started playing it out. He introduced it at 18 years old at the Rainbow Club in Wildwood, New Jersey, in the summer of 1960. Then came American Bandstand, and the kids on that show, and the dance itself. A dance where you did not have to touch your partner and you did not have to know how. Anybody could do it. That was the whole point. September 19th, 1960, number 1 in America. And now here is the part that has never happened again. It fell off. All the way off. Gone from the chart entirely, the way records do. And then more than a year later it came back. The same recording, no remix, no re-release gimmick, and on January 13th, 1962, it went to number 1 again. 2 more weeks on top. The only single in the history of the Billboard Hot 100 to reach number 1 in 2 separate chart runs. Not a re-recording, not a new version, the same record twice. Billboard eventually named it the single biggest hit in the history of their chart, a title it held for decades. The Library of Congress put it in the National Recording Registry. It is in the Grammy Hall of Fame. And I think about Hank Ballard, who wrote it, who watched somebody else become the face of the biggest song in chart history. And who, to his credit, kept cashing the songwriter checks and never pretended he was fine with it. That is 1960, a song nobody wanted on the A-side, sung by a kid with a joke for a name, that broke a record nobody has broken since.